are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm just like one of the crazy days.
Yeah, well, hopefully some people should arrive soon to watch the party. I've been tweeting out. I've done all the emails. I don't know, maybe could you send out a tweet or two on the Access Network? I thought you did one yesterday.
You sent out from my own account, but for Access to do it, it's like a bit complicated since it's like 6:30 in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guess I'm gonna hold off because the video is only like 20 minutes long, so 1:40 to play it. And then what happens? Yeah.
Okay,
hopefully people will show up for the Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna mute myself and just a couple of things. But do you have any questions before we start? Like when we actually start?
No, actually, not really. But I think if like when Deborah joins, she maybe like also be a good idea for her to update us on the civil society meeting in New York.
Oh, well, that's something you can ask her about, like, as a panelist.
Awesome. Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
See you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Please do. everyone. Thank you for joining. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes, see if for a few more people, and then we will start. Thanks.
It looks like we're still waiting for a few other people to join, but I think that we have enough questions that were submitted to get started now. Welcome everyone to the second webinar in our series on the WSIS+10 review. Topic today is how to get involved. Video, there are many ways for civil society to engage in the review process. Vital at this point that civil society groups all over the world are empowered to influence the review outcomes by pushing governments to promote human rights and development-oriented positions. Part of the effort to build the confidence and capacity of a wide network of civil society organizations to engage in the review, we produced a series of 3 targeted information sharing videos and online seminars in partnership with the Association for Progressive Communications, the Center for Democracy and Technology, the Inner Democracy Project, IFFLA, College, and the Diplo Foundation to raise awareness of the WSIS process and highlight the opportunities available for civil society to engage and influence a high-level international debate. Our panelists today are Deborah Brown from the Association for Progressive Communications, Grace Githaiga of KICTAnet, and Duru Aydin of Access. So we have a few questions that have already been submitted, so I can start posing those to our panelists. The first one is, what is the way to structure a written submission, or what are key elements to include to make for an effective submission? Anyone who wants to jump in? Thank you.
Actually, first of all, it's important to start with what is your priority as an organization, because this process and I guess the 2005 Tunis agenda is very broad, and the document touches on a lot of issues. So it's important to just start with, I guess, figure out your priorities, and to include, I think, are very direct suggestions. So I think instead of just writing a graph on what you think on ICT development, it is better to go directly to the document that you're commenting on, and then finding a relevant paragraph where you can actually make policy statements while at the same time recommending a change. It is able to paragraph scratch, which is, I think, an interesting way if you think that your positioning hasn't been included in that section. And to go a bit more into details, it is also better to stick to form language and make sure that you refer to previous resolutions or also the previous documents that came out of the process, including outcome documents of the WSIS forums that have been taking place since 2013, I think. I think it's also good rationale section for each recommendation, and then in the rationale section you can refer data from ITU reports, or again you can refer to resolutions or previous reports.
Deborah or Grace, do you have anything to add to that?
That was a really comprehensive update, Deniz. I don't really have much to add. I think just one other piece of the puzzle is coordinating messaging with other civil society organizations. And as Deniz said, the WSIS documents are quite broad in what they cover, and some organizations might have certain priorities. So I think what we've tried to do often is find organizations we work on similar issues with, or might not necessarily be commenting on the same issues as us, so we can share different suggestions and support each other's texts. And you can also do that with UN agencies if you feel that they're commenting and might also have similar and potentially other stakeholder groups.
So the next question we have is how can I find a civil society group working on the WSIS review in my area? Questions to everyone so that you can see. Questions for how someone can actually connect with another civil society group in their respective areas. Was
also referred to in the webinar that was very detailed, by the way. Thank you for preparing that. It's, I think, a great intent to not only WSIS, but I guess any UN process that is open to non-governmental stakeholders. Yeah, I think one of the best ways is to join the mailing list. There are two, one organized by ISOC and the other one is organized by BestFits. So joining the mailing list and then maybe sending an email to the moderator, if it's a moderated list, asking which organs are subscribing to the mailing list. Also, I would look on the 10 hashtag on Twitter and see which people and also which organizations are tweeting about it. And even though maybe they're not directly involved in the process, they might be interested in getting involved. So also little Twitter recent, everybody working in this area seems to be active on Twitter as well.
Were you able to connect?
Having some technical issues, but she has replied in the chat, and I'll just be her mouthpiece for the time being. So Grace has said that those who are working in the area generally post information on the web. So just a Google search would reveal who is involved in your area. Just type in, your town or your region, and type in WSIS review, civil society input, NGOs, that kind of thing, and should find something.
This is more ideas to the growing list. For the last 2 years, there's been a bunch of different open submission processes for the WSIS review, and most of those submissions are still posted online. So you can see listed from civil society which organizations have submitted in different regions. And so that's one way to find others working on these issues is looking at non-regional IGS. And recently, there's been a few pre-event coordination events at those events, and information is online. So if you didn't happen to attend those particular meetings, you might still be able to connect with those involved.
I think we also have from one of our participants, which is great. Aydin, would you be able to speak about this? Okay. Hi. I also said, he typed into the chat, he said, there could be many organizations working on the WSIS agenda, but may not be involved in the review process. So first of all, we need to understand the NGOs and civil society in the area of concern, and then find who are involved in the review process. So if there are no additional comments, the next question is, what are the key upcoming opportunities in the WSIS review for civil society groups to get involved? And I know the presentation covered this, but if there's anyone that wants to expand on this, please feel free. Grace and Deniz, if you have any thoughts about this, we just want to comment on any of the upcoming opportunities for civil society groups to get involved, anything that's coming up in the next few weeks. Thanks.
Right now there's a civil society joint statement that is open to review, comments, and signatories. So, but I wasn't at the meeting in New York, so if Deborah or Grace, I don't know if you were there, if you guys want to talk about it a bit.
Be it opportunity, because I think the text was due yesterday, and the idea is to close it in the next few hours. So it might be a bit difficult in this particular instance to get involved. But There's a meeting on Monday at the UN in New York time webcast, and there should be remote participation. So that's a consultation with non-governmental stakeholders and the opportunity to get involved remotely and to join that discussion. There's also at the IGF, there'll be a main session on the WSIS, the co-facilitators should be attending, and an opportunity to, as I understand it, to speak direct facilitators and to put forward your priorities or comments on this draft of the WSIS outcome. There's also the event itself in December, which we don't know. At that point, most of the decisions will have happened, but there will be opportunities for civil society to attend, and there'll be some side events and probably informal negotiations. So 3 that come to mind. We've also heard there will be the possibility of another stakeholder consultation, but the 2 would be difficult, and we haven't heard much information on that yet. So I think for now, just the 3 opportunities that I'm aware of.
Aditi, is there anything from Grace?
To what Deborah covered, just Grace said, it would be to comment on the documents that are being reviewed and calling for stakeholder input. So I think that was covered.
Okay, so the follow-up question that we have is, what impact can civil society have on the review outcomes? Anything that they would like to add to that, kind of generally speaking, looking a long term.
Yeah, I guess first, oh, there's echo.
That's better.
Sorry, that voice effect wasn't on purpose. Yeah, so I guess the first one is the final text itself. Hope the comments of civil society so far and what will come out of the joint submission will be considered. Secondly, if you decide to engage in negotiations or just information sharing with some diplomatic missions at UN or your local representatives, this can be like triggering more discussion in terms of what civil society thinks about internet governance and what are our priorities. I guess they, in a way, positive approach, and it's very, it might not be the case, but I think this is an opportunity because then that many UN processes that are open to such direct involvement. So it will also kind of make organizations be aware of the fact that there are some UN processes on which you can impact even though you're not a government.
Deborah and Grace, do you have anything to add?
Deniz was saying, I think one aspect of the outcome document we can have a particular impact on is if there's a new process, a summit or another type of review meeting, that we can ensure that that's more open and inclusive, directly shaping the process we'd be then participating in to follow on the review. And I think it's an opportunity to talk to your delegations, your representatives, and be a longer term official relationship if there's other you're doing advocacy on, or if you want to start doing kind of your organization as an expert or as a stakeholder in these discussions, so it can have a larger impact in your work as a society person in your country. And I think it's a bit of a difficult process. It's not as we would have liked, so it's a bit limited in terms of how we can influence. But I think, as Deniz said, talking to your missions, talking to your governments, is a good way to try to influence that process when we're not necessarily able to input equally as government there. But I think it's a good opportunity for further engagement as well.
And Grace, I think have you been able to connect?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome.
Oh, good. Oh, this is so stressful. But I think I got what Deborah said towards the end. Kept losing you, so I'm not even sure the question, but I think it's on how to participate.
The question is, what impact can civil society have on the review outcome?
I would just want to
dipped out there. Would you mind repeating that?
Do you think you could type in your response and perhaps read it out loud to the group? With that, I think I'll just go to the next question, which is actually, can civil society who aren't speaking at the consultations influence the proceedings in any way?
Evidence-based information on this area, because what is clear is that they have no time really to sometimes work or research on what would be useful to the process. And so I think civil society really starts an opportunity influencing these positions, bringing this evidence-based and saying, see, we've actually been conducting our own research, we've evaluated the process, we think this is where the country is at, and we think this is what the country should be taking to the meeting in December. I have found that because they don't have the time, they usually do take some of these positions on into their contributions. I guess they are only they would only be hesitant if, for example, they think that that's controversial. But by and large, I think civil society stands a very good chance in bringing those positions into the process.
Oh, so much, Grace. Yeah, unfortunately, we missed the beginning of what you were saying, but thank you very much for bringing up that point about the value of bringing evidence-based research into the document. Next question is, can civil society who are not speaking at the consultations influence the proceedings in any way?
I'm not speaking at the I don't necessarily think speaking is the way to influence the debate much as talking to governments about the actual text that you want to see change. I think they're useful in order to get key messages forward, but I think the value, at least from my perspective, is often the conversations that happen in the corridors or specifically on the text itself, because the way the consultations are organized, they're like panels where we get to discuss topics, and end of the day we're working on a document with text. So I think there's value in both, but I wouldn't say by not being a speaker you don't value that there isn't value in influencing the text itself.
Yeah, you can tweet questions. Last time in the July consultations, the WSIS, who organizes the logistics and thing of the process, started a hashtag. And I guess you can use the hashtag to ask questions, and that happened in the previous meeting.
And I think we also have a comment that I'm just noticing from Imran. Would you like to read out what you sent out to the group? the chat. You wrote that the review process would be helpful for the zero draft and the final report. Having the list of issues and recommendations. One of the important needs is a centralized hub that could be used to provide an opportunity to replicate the innovation and ICT development of the global level, and if it is developed from any corner of the world. And the next question is, how would you approach a government representative to talk about the WSIS issues? Then I know you mentioned this in the presentation, so if there's anything that you want to add about sort of any tips about how to actually approach someone, a diplomat, someone from a governmental representative.
Sure. Wait. Well, I think Deborah is probably a better person for this question since I only participated in the July consultations. And what was interesting for me was that after I had a chance to speak at the consultation, after that, so like delegates came because they were interested in what we had to say. After that, I think it's a good idea to follow up, I guess, send email and ask for a meeting. I noticed and what I observed was that missions missions can be very large, and I think some people might especially be interested in the issues because they are very relevant and interested at the end of the day. So I think just keeping in mind that they can also have an open mind to talk to you, it's a good approach. But in terms of practical experience, I don't have that much. So
perhaps Deborah, would you like to comment?
Very good point about one of the benefits of speaking is that governments will come up to you or other stakeholders and pick up on the points you raise. So that's a really good way to influence the debate. In terms of approaching government representatives, a strategy is to listen to what they're saying, and if they're picking the same issues that you're advocating for, both in the actual consultations and interventions, but also in the written comments, because it's very what their positions are, and then you can find where you have allies. So even just like they'll come up to civil society speakers after you speak, you can go up to governments and say, how you picked up on net neutrality, for example. We work quite on this issue. Can we share text? Can we strengthen what's in the document and work from there? Another thing to take into consideration is if you work with others in civil society and a person from one region and you have a part of another organization who's from that region, perhaps through that other partner a way to approach the government that will be much more outcome or will be much more effective than you, for example. Like if you're from Africa and a Latin American delegate, someone you want to talk to, is there someone you're working with in Latin America that can speak to them? So kind of being aware of sensitivities and cultural kind of approach that you can take. That's an important thing to take into account. And I think you have to look their addresses and try to get in touch with them and go the blind route, because at the end of the day, their job is to actually take into account what stakeholders are feel is important. So I would try to just directly reach out to them, even if you don't have a clear connection.
That's really useful. Grace, are you back online?
Yeah. Just a quick point to add on to what Deborah has said. Sometimes you may find that your government is rigid on certain positions, but they want to listen to their counterparts from another country. So what Deborah is saying is, even in civil society, you get an idea of which government is supporting which position, and sometimes it would be good to just lobby also through civil society partnerships on that they talk to governments, listen to governments, and see if then their government can impress upon, say, our government to take a certain position, and just give reasons why. I have found that useful, and I know the U.S. government is very effective in that. Just
Sorry, I erased there for a second. Response from Imran that says, we approach the Minister of IT through email and also letter writing. Similarly, we may also contact other government representatives as well, but in my experience, they do not speak or answer immediately. So that's interesting if anyone has any comments on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, sometimes government representatives actually don't know what's going on. That happened to me before at a conference, DC. So sometimes people just go to the conference because it's their job, but they're not as info what's going on, and that's sometimes also why they don't reply. And it's unfortunate, but it happens.
And it looks like Deborah had to step out, but we continue with, I think we have a few questions left here. Next one is actually very interesting. Which government representatives have you found to be most accessible or responsive to direct engagement? That's a follow-up to Imran's point.
respond quickly.
Oh,
yeah. I think for us, from our region, we found that the regulator really has, is professional and does listen, because they're the ones who are charged with spearheading these processes. Some they're the ones to talk to. So, and if one was to talk, yes, the minister will come to the meeting, but sometimes the minister doesn't stay all along, and so you'd find that the head of the delegation is the director general of the regulator. So for us, we found it very useful to engage.
Oh, Grace, drop there for a second. Grace, if it's possible, could you type in your response, and then either myself or Didi could read out the rest of it? Deniz, do you have any thoughts about this? Alternatives have you found to be most accessible or responsive to direct engagement?
Yeah, my experience when I was at the consultation in July, as they were saying, it was forcing to hear what government representatives have to say, and the ones who are make a point that is a bit different the usual UN language, or I guess like the ones that have something special. I mean, I remember one of the delegates speaking about how the labor markets are being shaped by the internet or something like that, and I kind of want to follow up on that because of that personally he had interesting ideas. So yeah, the ones that have interest in the process, or in addition, like even personal interest in the process, because I mean these issues are like issues that are almost every day, and it's, as I'm saying, the whole process and the documents are so broad that it's very possible to bring something else to the table. And yeah, I guess that's also why it's important to really follow what government representatives are saying, what they're tweeting about, and kind of making a strategy out of what you see and what you analyze.
for us from our region. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the strategy is sort of different because you really don't have our those negotiating, tweeting, or following people, following people on Twitter or in those discussions.
A short comment from Imran that says, one way is to arrange a public forum meeting and asking questions directly to government representatives, and therefore they would have to respond to you face to face. And we can come back to Grace when she's able to connect. Is there a place for advocacy outside of official fora, for example, thought leadership and media outreach? Any strategies related to communications or media outreach?
Perhaps you guys are like the best people to answer this, I guess.
Great.
Yeah, I after I finished speaking, I lost you, so I don't know what's happening. And I have, I finish. I am just losing you completely.
Is it possible for you to type in your responses, and Aditi could what you're typing? Yeah, sorry, Grace.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get what the question was. After I finished speaking, I lost you. So
Yes. Yeah. So the previous question was, which representatives have you found to be most accessible, responsive to direct engagement?
Yeah, to that, and I said for us it's the regulator. And then Ben went on to say our strategy is different because it requires sometimes physical engagement, and that they're not Twitter followers, or even if they do, they never respond. So it's a different way you have to engage and forge relationships.
Oh, so the next question that we were just discussing is there a place for advocacy outside of official fora, for example, thought leadership and media outreach?
Yeah, I guess I can answer that. So there's definitely it's possible to believe about the process that is way through which anybody expresses their thoughts, even they're not involved in the official fora. In which really an advocacy person, so maybe someone else can answer that part.
Okay. Again, when I finished speaking, I lost you.
We know, Grace. Thanks for trying.
Thank you.
This internet is so, oh my goodness, it's so frustrating. Anyway, in terms of whether there is a place for advocacy outside the official fora, there are certain journalists that are responsive to ICT issues. They do write about the developments in the internet fora. A few of them can actually be targeted. So, and the thing about journalists is that sometimes they do not understand what WSIS is. So that would call for
dropped off one more time, but in the meantime, I will read out that I'm getting in the docs. It says, yes, we've reached for advocacy to engage common non-governmental organization representatives, CIOs or CEOs meeting on conferences.
It's also another way of, that we have worked that is sometimes formal, sometimes informal, is to get a few members of parliament from the communications committee who are friendly to civil society views and get them to understand so that they also start highlighting these issues at that level. And just in case they will be part of the delegations that will be coming the high level meeting. So both formal and informal ways, just getting people who are friendly or who to understand, or maybe we can say progressive individuals, both in media and in parliament, and popular bloggers.
Thanks. You dropped off a little bit when you were talking about journalists who don't understand the WSIS. Could you repeat that one thought that you had about journalists?
I was just saying that there are journalists who write on ICT issues. Sometimes they may not understand what WSIS is all about. So as people who are following on the issues, we have to approach journalists that we think are progressive and are willing to listen, and just unpackage what WSIS is for them, and request them to put in a simplified article that a lot of people can understand and start seeing how issues relate to them. In particular, there is need to draw onto this relationship so that people don't just think that WSIS is a thing for civil society. So they need to see how it affects them and how it's going to influence their future communication. And it's just to get journalists to understand that so that they're able to produce such articles. And if those articles are in the papers, then it would be good for us who are working to actually tweet them, post them on the listservs that we belong to, and see if they can start creating debates.
That's something I think that's very interesting, because there are actually some really meaningful out that can come out of this process. For example, right now, for bridging the digital divide, and the current, I guess, aim is to provide universal and affordable access to the internet all by 2020, which I don't know if it's going to happen, but at the same time, it's a very, very big statement. If this current version passes through the UNGA in December, I think that will be a good outcome that global civil society can, in a way, push forward, and we can the states accountable for this. And I think this is not only important for digital rights groups, but also for ICT, for groups, and generally development groups, global south.
Okay, thanks.
Then the next and final question is, are there particular obstacles or considerations for groups in the global south?
I think, okay, go.
I think one of the obstacles would be if certain governments are hostile to civil society, and just hostile to the view, hostile to the research that have been done, hostile to listening to the civil society. I think that's a major obstacle. A second obstacle is yes, you can have governments that pretend to listen, but take your views on board. Probably, they will invite you to a meeting and say it's a stakeholder consultation, but really
we'll get back when you're able to connect again. There is one comment from Imran that says, we've arranged an international conference on ICT for development in Pakistan on November 14th in Islamabad. There are many government representatives that are coming, and we may engage them by taking a slot on the first day and discussing the issues there. About 150 plus NGOs that have been invited. Is there any way that you can share a link on how to get involved, or a way that we can promote this as well?
And again.
Hi. I think so. We heard about the first half of what you said. Could you just repeat the last part?
What now? No, I was just saying that two of the obstacles that I see.
So I think we were second obstacle.
Yeah, one is governments being hostile to civil society. And the second one is where they pretend, yes, we are speaking and consulting, but they also end up ignoring from civil society into their final outcome documents.
Thank you very much. So it looks like Imran will share the link with Aditi and share it to others about the event on December 14th in Islamabad. So yeah, it was our last question. So just wanted to open the floor and see if there's anyone that had any final thoughts, either from the panelists or to any of the participants. If you have any sort of final thoughts that haven't been covered yet. Thanks.
I was, if someone on this call was at the meeting, the Civil Society Coordination meeting in New York, and they want to update us on that.
I attended the meeting. What?
We lost you. Is there? Yes, we lost Grace. Unfortunately, is there anyone else who was present as well who would want to, answer what the outcome was? I'm not sure if Chital or Stacy were present. I unfortunately wasn't, but I don't know if
Giving a rationale on why we think certain things should change, or we think certain sections should not be there. And so out of that, by the time we left yesterday, there was a group that was left compiling and putting together an outcome document. It has been sent to us, and I think trying to contribute will be in the next 6 minutes. I need to look into it before the 6 minutes are over. We agreed that we would endorse whoever was participating. Then would endorse the contribution.
Yeah, I can try and give a date. If I didn't hear the question though, so I've been dipping in and out of the conversation. But if someone can the question, and I can try and respond.
Yes, so the question was about the civil society engagement meeting that took place in New York this past week, if there were any updates about that.
Grace gave a pretty good stuff there. We have a statement, a submission that we're working on, and it's not finished yet, but it will be open for endorsements when it is, and we're working towards a deadline today. So there's a bit today, New York time for endorsement. So really that date of the submission.
Is there to endorse the document that you?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not yet been finalized. So that can't be publicly aired yet. But as I said, it's get to that point. And the discussions that were had have come to the point. So I think Grace mentioned that the deadline for the group who is working on the submission is 10 a.m. EST, which is about 4 minutes away. So we're really looking to incorporate the suggestions that come back from the group internally, and then at that point, when it's in a position to be shared more widely amongst networks, we will be looking to do that. But Grace said,
okay,
it's basically a comment or a draft paragraph where we see the end. And then that will be open for endorsement. So there was the attempt to have it finished by yesterday, but it hasn't got to that point yet. But as I said, it should be finalized today and shared more widely with wider networks. And I think that communication will certainly happen today by best bits, for example. So anyone on the call, I'd really encourage everyone to stay tuned for that. And I know that with time zones, it's not ideal, but yeah, but we're just getting that live today.
Oh, yeah, thank you for the clarification. So yeah, it looks like we're drawing to a close. So thank you to all of our panelists for giving their insights. It was very useful information. Thank you very much for all of the participants who sent in questions and comments. Recording will actually be made available on the Global Partners Digital website, the WSIS webinar series webpage, which I can type into the chat. So that will be available shortly. And yes, thank you very much for everyone's participation. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone, thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.